Hello friends, welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at the worst level in Halo Combat Evolved, and it is commonly known as the Library. Many people may view it as the worst level in the original trilogy, or the worst level in all of Halo. I think that's a bit far, but we're going to talk about it. Why does the level suck? Why is it being remade in the remake, the only level that's actually kind of being changed as opposed to just remastered? Was it really that bad? I mean, we're going to talk about it here, so let's get started as to why this level is just bad, just rough. So, first of all, this is the only level in the original game that features exclusively the Flood. There are no Covenant enemies on this mission. Now, the reason that's significant is because the Flood are a little one-note. There are a few different Flood types. You have the Popcorn Flood, as I call them. You have the explosive, the carrier forms that are going to explode into Popcorn Flood. And then you have the regular Flood combat forms. Sometimes they carry weapons, sometimes they do not. The Popcorn Flood are more of a nuisance. They are not very engaging, but similar to like needler rounds, they just kind of keep your shields down. They eat at you a little bit. If you're waiting for your shields to recover and one latches onto you, it's going to start chewing away at your health and just kind of keeps you from being able to fully recover. So Popcorn Flood are just kind of a pain. Then you have the carrier forms. The carriers just kind of explode into a bunch of Popcorn Flood. These explosions can be a pain because they just kind of come out of nowhere if you're caught off guard. Otherwise, they're very, very slow and tedious and just a big thing to avoid. These guys are really just kind of an inconvenience. They're not a big threat unless they're in your way and you're not paying attention. However, the explosions can cause a chain reaction to go off. Chain reactions in Halo CE will sometimes just send you flying back to the last checkpoint. Alright, they're sometimes unpredictable. They're a pain because you didn't really do anything wrong. You correctly avoided a grenade, but little did you know it set off 4 more grenades that were right below your feet. And so when the carrier forms explode, those chains of explosions are just miserable because there's not much you can do sometimes to avoid it. It's just, hey, there was an explosion, it caused like 15 more explosions, that there was nothing you can do. Now that said, again, they're not a big threat. As long as you see them coming, you're paying attention, you're checking your corners, you can kind of shoot them, you can cause them to blow into other carrier forms and send them flying. They're not the biggest deal. But then we get to the combat. The combat forms are more or less straightforward. They charge you at all times. They don't have any other tactics. They don't retreat for the most part unless they're scripted moments. They don't retreat. They don't flank you. They don't have any sort of behavior or anything. They charge you. Sometimes they jump and lunge at you, but they're just coming straight at you, kind of like typical zombies, right? Makes me think of Call of Duty zombies a little bit. There is a predictable pattern. They have weapons. They're not very accurate sometimes. Sometimes they're overly accurate. We'll get to that in a second. But they have weapons, and they will charge you, and they will shoot at you. They will swing at you if they get close with their big claws. Yes, in Halo CE, you can shoot off the arms of the elite Flood forms. You can have little buddies that have no ways of attacking you. But besides that little gimmick, they more or less have the exact same tactic. They are not very interesting to fight. And it's not because they're bad. It's just uninteresting. When you're fighting the Covenant, you have that dynamic where do you take out the grunts, so you can pick them off until you get to the elite? Do you take out the elite, and it causes the grunts to scatter? The jackals, they're less likely to run, but they will. You can, do you want to take them out? They have the shields. You have to be a little more pinpoint accurate. Or do you toss a grenade in? There's a whole dynamic with the different Covenant types. Obviously throw in hunters and invisible elites and etc. Elites with the sword. You have a good variety of enemies and ways to engage, and they have different tactics. They're not always going to run straight at you. Sometimes grunts are going to run at you, not in Halo 1, but sometimes grunts are going to go suicide and run at you. Sometimes the elites are going to come and try to melee you. Sometimes the elites are going to back off and take cover and let their shields recover. The Flood do not have that same variety of combat. They are very straightforward. They do the same things, and they're more annoying than they are interesting, oftentimes, to fight. So, that said, Flood are not very interesting, but they're occasionally very, very annoying. The overwhelming amount of them can be obnoxious, and that's kind of the point. But then occasionally, they give them the rocket launcher, which means it doesn't matter what you do, you might find yourself at the end of a rocket that was almost impossible to avoid because you can't really determine how accurate the flood are about to be with that rocket, and you're going to take it to the face and it's automatically going to kill you. It's very frustrating. Unless you've memorized where they are on the level, you have no idea. You're just going to round the corner and all of a sudden there's a rocket launcher coming straight at you. You better pray that it misses and that you're going to down the rocket launcher flood before it ever gets a chance to fire again. It's just more of a nuisance, and this isn't exclusive to this level. There are rocket launcher flood on 2 Betrayals and other levels, but in this level, it just adds to the frustration. The frustration of fighting the flood, frustration of the level. It's just frustrating. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Then we come to the level itself. Starting with the graphics, it's bland and boring. It is gray Forerunner hallways, but nothing interesting to look at. Alright, it is the same copy and paste hallway the entire way through. There's occasionally, it's rounded different ways, occasionally you have to walk by the elevator, occasionally you have to take an elevator, which is just one big flat platform that raises up to another level of flood. There's nothing intriguing to look at, which means this level is so incredibly bland, on top of being dark. It's a very dingy, dark level, kind of leaning into the horror, but the horror was successful on the previous level for 343 Guilty Spark and the Swamp. The horror doesn't do it on this level. It's more annoyance, nuisance, hey, big empty gray hallways with endless zombies, which is okay, but it's a boring level. It's not very interesting at all. I will say the Anniversary Edition steps in and does make it at least pretty to look at. It kind of looks like the library has a purpose, not just, hey, here's a bunch of empty gray hallways and this giant gray structure. You know, and 343 is talking about, 343 Guilty Spark is talking about things that he's going and doing and things he's going to fix, but you don't see that. It just is big empty hallways with endless zombies, and that's all this level amounts to, from a graphics perspective. On top of the repeating hallways, that just mean you're fighting in the same arenas over and over again with no variety. Same to look at for every single floor of the library itself. This level just has so many bland problems, frustrating enemies. It's just not fun. And then that brings me to the story part of this game. What are we doing in the library? Okay, we're starting on the bottom floor. Why the bottom floor? Why can't we teleport to the top? I have no idea. 343 doesn't explain it. The game, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't really explain it well. You teleport to the bottom floor, you gotta climb 4 floors just to take an elevator back down to the bottom floor to grab a key. That's all we're doing. We're going to this big facility to grab a key that operates Halo. Okay, that's fine. There's nothing to it besides that. There is no interesting developments as to what this place is. There's no scientific developments of why they're studying the flood, or why they're here. There's no developments as to what this place does for the ring besides house the key. Up until this point, every single level we learn new things. Pillar of Autumn, we learn about the Covenant, we learn about the ring, we're introduced to the game. There's a lot going on. Then you go to Halo and you learn about the ring, and you see these structures, and you see this just, hey, this is an alien world thing that was built by somebody more advanced. Truth and Reconciliation, you get to explore a Covenant ship, you get to understand what happened to the captain. There's more developments happening. Then you go to Silent Cartographer. You're going to explore this island. The island's interesting with indoor and exterior areas. You're going to learn about the navigation and the security systems and so on. Assault on the control room. You're going through all kinds of stuff coming up from underground. There's so much happening. And then, of course, the plot development in 343, where you have the flood being revealed for the first time and the horror vibe, and the story is progressing. This level is very straightforward. There's a key. You have to get to the top floor so you can take an elevator back down to the bottom floor to grab the key, and that's all that happens. And it's just boring from a story perspective amongst all the other boring aspects of this level. And so, to be honest, this is where I would love to say, like, okay, well, here's the redeeming qualities. I don't have any. The only parts of this level I like are the little gag writings that they have when you're entering the elevator, and it says, I don't want to ride the elevator, or 4th floor of doom, or whatever it says. That's the only appeal this level has in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I really wish I liked this level. I was optimistic when I revisited this game that I would like it more than I remember, but it's just a bad level. It's bad in every way. Now, something that I love is they're remaking this level for the remake. They're redesigning it, retooling it. It's going to play a little different. I'm really hoping that's it's going to incorporate maybe some of the outside, give us more of an excuse of what we're exploring, understanding what the library does besides just house, flood, and a key. Specifically, I like when you go to Halo 2 and you're playing from the Arbiter's perspective, approaching the library. You get to break through this Forerunner structure. You have Dead Covenant, you have humans, you have the Flood, and everybody's trying to get to the library at the same time. It's unique, it's different, there's more to explore, there's the outdoor aspect. They also expanded on the Sentinels, and they had the big, like, heavy Sentinel that picks up and crushes vehicles. The areas are more varied, it's interesting, and the level does end in the classic library part before you get to the cutscene. I would be curious to see if the remake incorporates more of the Halo 2 design, although I will also say Halo 2, while I did enjoy that far more, that section far more than the original library, it's also one of my least favorite parts of the original Halo 2. So maybe there's not a lot to salvage here. I'm optimistic that really anything is going to be better than the original. I would rather play the Halo Anniversary version of the library versus the original, just in terms of looks. I think it's more appealing and it's brighter, and I can see where I'm going. But yeah, this level's just bad. This level's been bad for a long time. It's commonly known as the worst level in the game, one of the worst levels in any of the Halo games. Of course, the 343 games maybe give it a run for its money, but that said, let me know, do you actually like this level? Let me know in the comments. Is it something that you enjoy playing or revisiting? Is it underrated? I would really be curious to see if anybody actually likes this level. But otherwise, thank you for watching this far into the video. If you're excited for the new game or more Halo games coming up, if you want to hit subscribe, that's what we're going to be talking about as we get really, really close to Campaign Evolved.